Happy Tuesday, everybody. I hope you missed me because I missed you. It was a long 4-day weekend, and I mean long. Anyway, so if there's anybody who knows anything about raising children, well, you know, it's Joe Biden. Look at that, huh? Now, there's someone who needs a puberty blocker in his 50s. Now, what you're about to see is the president talking about kids on a program called The Daily Show. Not sure if you heard of it. It's kind of a lot like this show, which we also do every day, except the difference is we have viewers. The topic, oh, you're going to love it, transgender kids.
Transgender kids is a really harder thing. What's going on in Florida is, as my mother would say, close to sinful. I mean, it's just terrible what they're doing. What are they thinking about here? They're human beings. They love, they have feelings, they have inclinations that are, I mean, it just, to me, is, I don't know, it's cruel.
Why does he always sound like he's mixing NyQuil with Xanax? Not that I would know. Either that or he rolled off a bassinet as a child. But anyway, if there's any president in history that belongs on the Comedy Channel, it's this one. Talk about a transition. He went from English to gibberish in mere seconds, the moment after he was elected. Biden is referring, of course, to Florida's new bill that would block gender-affirming care for transgender minors. That means no puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, or surgical procedures for anyone under 18. Yeah, that's terrible, right? So it's close to sinful what's happening in Florida, because in the dim recesses of Biden's mind, it's sinful to not irreversibly mutilate a confused child. Well, unless they're in the womb, of course. He actually wants to make it illegal to stand in the way of a surgeon castrating a little boy because he's been convinced he's actually a little girl by green-haired teachers with more piercings than a bait and tackle shop. But if a guy... Sorry, I just spit. But if a guy in an old van went around your neighborhood chopping up little kids, you'd want him thrown in jail. But now Biden appears to want to throw them a parade. In Joe's mind, kids who are too young to cross the road alone can somehow consent to surgery. But I guess for Joe, it's more girls' hair to sniff. He's right about one thing, though. Those children are human beings, and that's why so many Americans are so horrified about what's being done to them. How is this a winning message for the Democrats in 2024? It's not even a winning message for the Vikings in 700 AD. It's primitive and delusional, like when a monkey tries accounting. There's one, yeah, okay. And Biden is not done. Even if we let them turn Billy into Millie, the poor kid is still doomed. After all, Mother Nature let her wrath be seen over the last 2 years.
Mother Nature let her wrath be seen over the last 2 years. Floods, droughts, all the things. And so people can't deny it anymore. If we don't keep the temperature from going above 1.5 degrees Celsius raised, then we're in real trouble. That whole generation is damned. I mean, that's not hyperbole.
Not hyperbole. The whole generation is damned. That's exactly the definition of hyperbole, you old coot. So adorable. When he's not in power, he's adorable. When he's in power, scary as hell. And what a message of hope, right? I haven't seen an old man this pissed about temperature since Bernie Sanders got the heating bill for his second and third homes. Fortunately, Biden has a solution to our energy needs. I bet he was up in Massachusetts.
For example, I was up in Massachusetts, one of the largest coal-producing electric facilities in the nation. Well, guess what? We hooked it up to wind technology.
Yeah, windmills. Nobody knows more about producing wind than Joe. Just ask his day nurse. Yeah, let's just roll Biden's wheelchair in front of some windmills, then drop a pound of lentils in a smoothie and let him rip. Now, you might be wondering how Biden keeps his mind so razor sharp when there's so little of it left. I bet his focus is just stay focused.
My focus is just stay focused.
That's amazing. That came from the Federal Department of Redundancy Department, otherwise known as Kamala. But he needs that keen mental focus because, look, in this period he inherited, I think it's fair to say, a gigantic mess economically and politically.
In this period, I inherited, I think it's fair to say, a gigantic mess economically and politically.
I don't know what he said there. And that's not counting the one he made on the rug this morning. Yeah, he inherited these problems just like he inherited that hairline, too. He also repeated his huge lie about creating 12 million jobs, when really he created just 2 to guard Hunter's International Book of Whores Who Like Crack. Should I have said hookers? Yeah, you would have been okay with hookers. Then there's this lie on gay marriage. I bet he can remember exactly where his epiphany was.
I can remember exactly where my epiphany was. I was a senior in high school, and my dad was dropping me off. I remember about to get out of the car, and I looked to my right, and 2 well-dressed men in suits kissed each other. And I'll never forget, I turned and looked at my dad. He said, "Joey, it's simple. They love each other."
And those 2 men were Corn Pop and Babe Ruth. 2 men in well-dressed suits. This never happened. We can safely say that never happened. That was like he saw that in a commercial last week for a bank. Of course, he left out the part where he opposed gay marriage for 50 years of his career. A decade after that epiphany, he said gays in the military and government pose security risks to the country. And in the 90s, he voted for the Defense of Marriage Act. I guess maybe he was just anti-gay for pay. Of course, somebody got that. These well-dressed men over here. Of course, The Daily Show was able to score this fascinating interview because Cal Penn worked in the Obama administration as, and I need to take a deep breath here, the Associate Director of the White House Office of Public Engagement and Intergovernmental Affairs, which is a fancy way of saying, who the hell is this again? Kudos to Comedy Central for finding a host with less charisma than Chelsea Handler. I guess Al Gore was unavailable. But it makes sense. Biden was on The Daily Show, a doddering old fool who can't get the job done on a show that no one watches. Anything to add, Joe?
No, look, come on. I said it before, I'll say it again. Look, this stuff never changes, all right? What's in the good book? What's the first words of the Bible? In the beginning. In the beginning. Excuse me. In the beginning. Beginning. Hold on a second. In the beginning. In the beginning. In the beginning. How the hell with it?
Yes. Let's welcome tonight's guest. His comedy shows are like daylight savings. You'll feel like you just lost an hour. Writer and comedian Joe Mackey. There's a word for women like her, and that word is armed. Former governor of Alaska, Sarah Palin. He's my spiritual twin, only younger, taller, and better looking. Host of Lawrence Jones Cross Country on Saturday night's Lawrence Jones. She's fiery, wiry, and keeps a knife in her diary. Fox News contributor Kat Timm. So, Joe, I'm looking at you. I'm reminded that, yes, tax season is upon us. And it's good to see that you've taken on some additional work at H&R Block after we do the taping.
Greg, I've got to up my game here. I've got Lawrence on the show. I've got a former vice presidential candidate. I want to look good.
Yeah. All right. Do you regret not having these surgical advancements when you were a teen and confused tomboy named Regina?
There are some problems with your research department on that question, Greg. I was extremely tough and cool, young, budding man in my teens, and I have grown into the Adonis that you see before you tonight. But I'll tell you what, Greg, I don't know if I could listen to Biden, kind of tell us about a story about being a high school senior and this story about a gay couple kissing, because I don't believe that he remembers being a senior in high school.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to hear about climate change from a guy who owns a beach house. I don't want to hear about creating 12 million jobs when he leaves out the part that he supported the lockdowns that eliminated those 12 million jobs. The only jobs he's created are 87,000 for the IRS.
Yeah.
He always seems to leave out the exculpatory evidence. He's all for criminal justice reform to get rid of the crime bill that he sponsored.
Yeah.
I like this new Joe in a suit
Me
thing.
too.
Exculpatory. That's a hard word to say for me.
I'm gonna start making eye contact with people.
Baby steps, Joe. Baby steps. You don't want to creep people out.
Too late for that.
You know, Governor, there are two elements to this. One is the hypocrisy with gay marriage, but the other thing too is, don't you find it weird how quickly the trans issue just showed up?
Unbelievable.
It is. It still blows. I'm still trying to figure out, okay, how is this done? How is it on Joe Biden's desk? How does he do it? Because clearly he doesn't, there's no science that he can quote. So this is a political, kind of a political tidal wave done for a very small minority of Americans, expecting everybody else a compulsory kind of like obedience.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, is that people get mad at me when I talk about this kind of being a fad, but I really think that it is. It's kind of the hip thing for a lot of liberals to be jumping on this bandwagon. And like you say, there's no science, there's no, I'm sure, poll testing even that shows that the majority of Americans are really into this and really want this just shoved down our throats, because they don't. This is, as you're suggesting, just a minute, tiny percentage of the population that is even kind of enmeshed in the whole thinking of it that is good.
And we're not even talking about changing that. We like live and let live. Live and let live. We're talking about kids.
Yeah,
like
right.
if kids can't make up their minds over a tattoo, you can't. I mean, or anything. Like they to go to a movie. Boy, that's an old reference.
You know what though? I think
to go to a PG movie.
Yeah, no. I think that the healthy libertarian streak in so many of us, it is made manifest with an issue like this, because we don't want, it is live and let live for this. They're the ones trying to shove it down our throats.
Yeah. It's like, okay, if it's live and let live, then the parents get to live and let live, and don't use this privacy excuse like, oh, the kids shouldn't tell you. Lawrence, how you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah, that's nice. Nice. Oh, thank you. They're Acme
Sweater, too.
Studios. They're nice. They're Velcro because I'm lazy. A very lazy person. This is the sign of laziness when you've given up tying shoes.
No, that's rich. That's what it is. I don't have to tie my shoes.
You have somebody else do that for you.
Yeah.
What did you make of his appearance on the Daily Show? It's amazing. Do you know that I think 10 times as many people saw that here than on the show?
I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I don't know. I just find the president to be very weird.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really think he has a political compass because he's so old at this point that he's not alert. He reads the script. He's the person, you know, we used to shun the people that put notes on their hands.
Yeah.
Now the president can have a teleprompter right in front of him. The kid thing is troubling to me, though. I mean, we have actual issues with our kids with drugs and all this other stuff, and they want to make this the central focus.
Yeah.
But, you know, honestly, I don't think we're in the minority on this. Anytime there's an issue, I always say go to the group. If there's issue in Black America, go to Black people. So go to the gay community. And they don't even support this nonsense, but you'll never hear them say that because they'll secretly say, look, they'll shun us, they'll kick us out of the club. I mean, it's just, we're changing pronouns, they, them, it's not even grammatically correct. And then the fact that, the thing that, you know, the LGBT community has been avoiding for a while is to say that they prey on kids. And now you have a whole group of people within the community that are preying on kids.
Yeah.
So they're very disgusted by this, but you won't hear them say it because they don't want to be shunned.
You can't trust anybody who doesn't know the science of grammar with the actual physical science. Like, you're screwing up the language. Stay away from my kids. Happy Trans Tuesday, Kat.
Every Tuesday, the monologue's about trans stuff.
Yes, it is.
I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but I sure have.
Yeah, you have. You pointed it out to me. Do you think I go like I have a
I
cycle?
don't know. What do you do on Monday night?
That's a great question. Because you know what? I don't remember.
Yeah.
I had friends in town. Let's just leave it at that.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And
I'll
took
let
the-
you live your life.
Took the day off. Live and let live. That is, I coined that motto. Live and let live.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you want to close out the segment with something thoughtful?
Sure, I would. I think that Mr. Mackey over here, which I feel like I need to call you right now, you had a great point of all the things he's been hypocritical on, but a lot of people know this stuff and nobody points it out. And I think Joe Biden, we talk a lot about unflappable strength in a leader, right? Joe Biden is maybe the first president to have unflappable weakness. Because he says this stuff that everybody knows is not true. Like him in high school and then him actually voicing support for gay marriage is several decades longer than I have been alive.
Right.
So that's obviously not the moment that he got there, but nobody asks him anytime, usually when this stuff comes up, no matter what the issue is, because they're just thinking, well, I got a full sentence out of him, and therefore it went far better than I expected. I should consider myself lucky and call it a day. So nobody presses him on stuff because there's this assumption that he can't handle it.
Right.
So it's unflappable weakness.
Unflappable Weakness should be the title of his memoir. He could just keep writing the same one year after year because he won't remember. That's a terrible thing to say, but I'm not going to retract it. I feel like I'm with your more successful uncle. No, your older, more successful brother, Biff.
I was just thinking unflappable weakness is what I would call my muffin top.
Just the idea that you use the phrase muffin top is making me vomit.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.